Hello, welcome to episode 3 of the Tale of Two Gamers Road to 40k. Today, Dan and I are going to be talking about the inspirations for our projects.
Miniature Realms is proudly sponsored by Counter-Attack Bases. They stock a wide range of counters, gaming aids and movement trays for multiple game systems and offer custom items to suit your club, your event or even your podcast or YouTube channel. Check out the link in the video description.
So Dan, how you doing? We're back again.
Yeah, 2 weeks. We're keeping this going. It's 3 episodes in a calendar month, is it? Something like that.
I think so.
Or pretty close to. Yeah, good. Thank you. How about you?
Yeah, busy as I always say that, I think, but
Yeah,
busy.
Always.
I would have liked to have done more, which is a bit of I've done some, but it is a bit of a sort of preview of the amount of pictures that will be shown. But nice busy because it's been Easter, so that's where a lot of my time went. So I did a lot of stuff with the family over Easter. I was away nearly all of Easter, so for 2 weeks. So very little time at home. And we just spent, I didn't have much time to paint some stuff, but we're getting there, and we'll find out more in a moment. But obviously, you've seen from the intro that we're going to be talking a little bit about the inspirations for this project, because Dan and I are big fans of lore, but of the literature around it, the artwork, and things that inspire us, probably far more so than game mechanics and things. The game is something that we play at the end of it as a fun byproduct of our hobby. So we thought we'd talk a little bit about some of the things that sort of made us choose the armies that we have. And we've also got to do a draw and choose the winners for the calendars as well. But we'll do that right at the end of the show. So you have to stay and watch us. We'll just fast forward to the end, whatever you want to do. But we will announce this.
Hitting.
Yeah, it will show if people are skipping, so I will know, but it doesn't matter. Let's say, should we start with you then? Should we start with what we've been painted, and then we'll talk a little bit about the sort of the inspirations for the project. So what have you been painting?
Well, been quite busy actually. But by quirk of editing, Stu's going to know exactly what to put up when I start talking about these. But I will be kind and do it in the order that I sent them to him. So my original test miniature, which was Blackstone Fortress, Bareheaded Chaos Space Marine, needed some friends. So that was the thing I started working on after I finished my Traitor Guard unit. So he's got 4 mates, so that's just a legionary unit with a heavy bolter. It's just something to sit on the back line, that kind of thing. Plus, they look cool, and I don't particularly care about the game or the meta, so it's a case of they will do things, so I will get to roll dice with them. Excellent. If they're not particularly good at what they do, that is also excellent. That's fine. I don't have a problem for that. So yeah, I managed to get all of those finished up. Luckily, the notes I'd left myself when I did the test mini were fine. I was able to colour match. Happy days.
Yeah.
Not particularly too complicated. Obviously, in the time between the test mini, I managed to get hold of the Red Corsair box.
Yep.
It was going to be an inordinate amount of effort to carve the shoulder pad off the existing one, unfortunately, and not without destroying everything I'd done, and I wasn't willing to repaint it. So he just got a transfer, but the others all have the Red Corsair shoulder pads.
Nice.
So yeah, I got them done. And then I started the Havocs. So I've got 5 of those, 4 autocannons done. They're largely as they come. Obviously, Red Corsair shoulder pads. I did swap the heads because I wasn't particularly keen on the Havoc heads, so they've just got normal legionary heads on them.
Yeah.
Pretty simple as they are, really. There's not much to say about them other than they are what they are. A lot of trim. An awful lot of trim on those models. But they painted it reasonably quickly. Just to give some context on this, I did have some time off from work. Obviously, we had the Easter long weekend, and then I managed to get a week off as well. So I've had a bit more time, which is why I've one, I've done more painting as we will see than Stu, which is a miracle. That never happens. This is the first time in as long as I can humanly remember that that has been the case. Then I also painted up my Master of Executions. Now,
Hmm.
I've always liked in the lore the idea that Red Corsairs can come from anywhere. They are true renegades. So you will have the original Red Corsairs, Astral Claws. You will have other warbands have amalgamated, the other warbands within the Maelstrom Zone that they decided to just go in and smash. You'll have original Legionnaires who have defected to them because they may have had problems in the warp or from one of the original legions, etc., etc. And then obviously loyalist Space Marines that go renegade, either dribs and drabs or by entire chapter, etc. So I thought, what better Legion or Space Marine or whatever to represent the Master of Executions than Night Lord? It's got to be a Night
Yes.
Lord, really. What other Legion really goes around wearing their enemies? And obviously, Headsman's Axes from the lore, Night Lord fan. So, very subtle conversion on him, not a lot to it. The only real headache for it was cutting the shoulder pad off the uh, right arm.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's half of its because it splits down the center line. So I had to cut that away, the back bit away from the body. Uh,
Yeah.
and on the other one, it came with a molded shoulder pad, so I had to grind all that off. And that was a pain. So I replaced the arm on the right with a bolt pistol arm, which we'll come to in a minute why that was a bad idea. And then replace the shoulder pad, Night Lord helmet, and then swap the backpack for a normal backpack, just to
Right.
sort of tone it down a little bit. And I think he looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
Happy with him.
Absolutely.
Um, and then I've started my Terminators. They're
Mhm.
probably about half done.
Yeah.
Grey and red armor, main colors are down, metals are on, blacked out, bases are in their early stages. Next steps will be some of the other fiddly bits, and then the grand sort of highlighting of all of the armor will happen, and then it'll be oils, that kind of thing, basing done next. And moving on for next, mainly because I didn't have enough time and I was quite tired some of the days this week after going back to work. I just didn't fancy doing long stints on the Terminator. So I've done some building and I've built my other Legionary unit. Um, which you can, the keynote amongst you will see that the backpack from the Master of Executions is on the champion. There's some other bits and pieces, including the Red Corsair upgrade bits, included and scattered amongst that squad. So they're going to be my next thing after the Terminators. So hopefully, if
Yeah.
people
They look
join us on the
great.
next one, Terminators will be finished, and hopefully they'll be done as well, because they're with who the Master of Executions goes with, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's been
Yeah.
quite
Yeah.
productive. Been
Yeah.
quite
You've
good.
been, that's good. It's been good.
But
This is what
well,
partly what this project was about, wasn't it? It's about getting you back hobbying at a decent rate where you're finishing units, finishing things, and moving on to the next. And you finished a couple of units, you've done a character, you've started another unit, built yet another one, so the
mm,
momentum's pretty good. And
well, I
yes, you
painted
said you had some time off, but it still
23
you're doing it.
models.
Mm,
Fully painted 23 models so far, I think.
that's great.
Yeah, half painted another five, and then I've got the next 10 lined up. To put it into context, I think I painted 11 models last year.
Right. Yeah.
Admittedly, some of them to a character standard, but even so,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
that
It's
is a
a
difference.
significant difference. Yeah. Significant difference. Nice. Nice. Nice.
We're getting
Nice.
there. So
Yeah.
for once, it's been me coming in with the smorgasbord of painted miniatures for people to view, which is always quite nice. And to be fair, I'm quite happy with them. I'm maintaining a consistent standard. They look quite good together. Happy. So how about you? I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
I know
Well,
what you've done, but please let's tell the listeners or the watchers what you've done.
so the plan was to do my blood cores, and I've made a pretty good start on them, to
Hmm.
be honest with you. And I actually stopped working on them yesterday because I decided I needed some transfers, but I'll come back to that in a moment. So, yeah, a few pictures going up now. But I've done all the airbrush layers, started picking out quite a lot of the detail. I've done all the skin on their faces, done their eyes. It's kind of hair and metallics now. before oil washes and basing really. So there's not an awful lot left to do. That will all come together relatively quickly.
Yeah.
But I paused because um, I I I told myself when I opened the box and flicked through that the little pointy red sort of triangle chevron things were on the transfer sheet, and they're not. There's some little triangles, but they're not the things that you see on the
Uh,
for the blood claws. And I could paint them in, and I've done it plenty of times before, and loads of them for a White Scars Heresy commission actually. So, but it was also taking a long time, and I haven't got a lot of time at the moment, as I've already talked about. So I thought, well, no, instead of taking 10 times longer than I would have done, I'll just wait. And I Googled, and Mighty Brush, I think it is,
yeah, I was
do
going to say,
them.
I was literally just looking this up. I swear it was Mighty Brush that,
So they've
yeah,
been shipped. They'll probably arrive tomorrow, I think. They're sent first class, shipped today. So order them, ship the next day after I order them. So yeah, so I've done the transfers on the left shoulders, the black mains one, and a couple of little bits on their legs. So it's just the other shoulder pad and a couple of the knee pads that I'm going to add those little red triangle chevrons to. Then I'll, protect that and gloss that as well. But I've done a fair amount. The hair won't take an awful long time, and then it's the metal. So it may well be that I have time to do that over this weekend. So, but we wanted to record. We wanted to make sure
yeah,
we didn't wait another week or so, because it's not about only recording when we do finish a unit or something. It's about sort of talking about our progress, be that finished or not. And I've got a little bit less to paint than you because my initial plan is just 1,000 points,
mm,
and I may stay at that for the time being. And if we're still doing this, I'll pivot on to something else, which I'll talk about in a moment. But the 1,000 points of these is the first goal. I did also pick up some terrain, so
yeah, you
I
did.
I don't have any. I got rid of all my 40k terrain, all of my 40k-esque terrain anyway, once I stopped playing Heresy a few years ago. I haven't really replaced it. And when I played a little bit at home with my son, we just didn't really have anything. I picked up this reversible board. I can't even remember what it's called. If I lean out the way, can I see the box? No, it's out of sight, so I'm not going to get up and go and check. But it's one of the official sort of box sets you get with the cardboard thing with the terrain sets. I don't have the terrain, but I still have the board, and I thought it'd be nice to start with this one. And then I bought all of the stuff you see on the table there is 3D printed from eBay. It was only 30 quid. Which I thought was a bit of a bargain. It's not the best in the world, but it's also not the worst either, and it's really solid. But I need a bit more. So since I've spoken to you last, Dan, I have ordered some more. We were talking about all different things, but I went cheap in the
Did
end.
you order the
Ret
Firebase? Did you do
no,
it?
I didn't. I went cheap.
Oh,
I went cheap. Went back to the same eBay seller, knowing they're good, and got from the same range. So I've ordered this. You haven't. I'll send you these pictures of these afterwards. So, but the viewers will be able to see this. I ordered a building which is less destroyed from the same style, same set,
mm,
which is 3 stories high. So that's a bit more line of sight blocking, and then a couple more 2-story high buildings because there's a lot of low ruins in that set, and that will fill that out, and then two like crates as well from the same place as well, so all from the same person. So once those arrive, I'll end up doing a big batch quick paint for the lot of them. But yeah, it gives me a setup for home. I don't think I need too
mm,
many setups. We will see if I keep playing it and want to do different setups. I will. I've got so many setups for other game systems, especially old world, but
yeah.
I'm not going to go crazy with 40k setups yet because I feel most of my games will will just be against my son, which very often downstairs on my coffee on my kitchen table because those
Mm,
boards will just fit down there, or I'll be meeting you at Warhammer World or taking Jacob to Warhammer World, and I won't need it the same way as I do for the old world stuff. But I did want a good table's worth of terrain. We know the new layouts for them now as well because they've been on the articles, haven't they? All
yeah.
of the base things. So I might pick up some of those. I'm not super interested in having to do those layouts. I just want to have fun games, but also
Mm,
I'm not adverse to using them either. I know Green Stuff World have looked bright, clear, sort of things. They just look shiny though. I think
mm,
I want them to be a bit matte. So I may pick up a set of the templates to stick all those bits I've got on. But yeah, it's so I've done stuff. I feel like I'm cracking on. I broke my rule again, bought more. I bought Ragnar Blackmane. Um,
There.
I was inspired by my son asking me if can we play like a small game, sort of 500, 750 points, and I didn't think well Logan Grimnard sort of takes up a bit too much of that. So there's a world where I can run him and my two squads, and we can have a little small game on the kitchen table
Hmm.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
To me, he makes more sense as a first character to build and paint for smaller games. So that was my excuse. I'm still going to try and be good and stick to my rule and paint my
Yeah.
other
All
unit
right.
next, because once I've got that out of the way, then I can really. But he will be tempting, especially if time's pressing. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm still pretty good for me. I've not gone and bought all the stuff that I need for a 2,000 point army, which is what I normally do, and get myself in a mess where I sit in boxes forever. I'm still only looking at two characters and one unit sitting in
Hmm.
boxes. So still still pretty good for me overall.
And I've been so
And
well
it,
behaved. I've had Huron built for like 2 months, and I've not
and you
touched him because he's going to be the
haven't touched.
capstone miniature.
Yeah, and that makes sense. That makes sense. And Logan Grimnar might be that for me, to be honest
Hmm.
with you. It's so I'm a bit torn because it was the plan was always do 1,000 point list, so that's fine. I will do that. It's pretty much the stuff I've got. I think that's my list. I don't think in my 1,000 point list. Yeah, I've got a wolf priest in there as well. Yeah,
Hmm.
and wolf guard and some head takers as well. So there are a few more bits. So I will finish all of that. But I yeah, as I hinted at the Yarrick stuff.
Hmm.
I may have pre-ordered it. Once I've done the 1,000 points of this, I may start working on that because I've already got some Astra Militarum. And if Dan's still recording, I'll just factor that into this thing. We'll see where
Yeah.
we're at with
Well,
it. It may well not make it into this podcast depending on the timings of it, and when we start
I've
and how long
still got
we go
lots to
for.
do. I've got after what I've already talked about, I've got 10 raiders plus a reeve captain, 5 more terminators, 2 land raiders, a rhino, and
Yeah,
Huron,
yeah,
and then obviously the rest of his unit. And there's a couple of extra bits now, as these things do. I'm probably going to want to do later. So there's always bits I can paint because I've got an idea about converting Saturnine terminators into obliterators
nice.
because
It's a
the
nice
scale's
idea.
somewhat conversant.
Yeah, I think they're close
Uh,
enough, aren't they?
yeah, I think things can be done that it's close enough. They look like
If
what
they're
they
all on a
are.
tactical rock.
Hmm. I mean, obliterators aren't big.
No, yeah, I think that'd be
Um,
fine anyway. I wouldn't worry about it.
yeah.
But
I mean, well, end of the day, there's people using third edition obliterators, aren't there? And they're just putting them on the right size bases, and I champion that. I don't think I'm going to be playing anyone who's going to be that upset about it, to be honest with you. Not for more than
no,
5 minutes anyway. I'll be off to the bar.
and if they are, then they're probably not worth
Yeah,
playing. I can't imagine you're going
no,
to go to any competitive events where
no. And if it's that kind of thing, I'll be like, okay, you take your 20 tournament points, and I'm going to go to the bar.
yeah,
Have
yeah,
fun. Play with yourself.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I have no idea what the community's like. People can hopefully answer that if there are players of 40K,
Uh,
what the community's like in terms of allowing kit bashes and things like that. I don't honestly have no
well,
idea
I have
for sort
no
of
idea
match
his
play
name.
effect.
But
Hmm.
there's a guy who's always at Warhammer World, and he converts. He had like orc custodies and
Hmm.
as like lizard men towel and stuff and all
Yeah.
sorts. And he gets in the cabinet and all.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
could.
think it's that serious.
I'd be surprised if that was the case. But I
Mm,
would be assuming that it's the same as all the other game systems that I play from GW, which is kind of fill
yeah.
your boots, go for it, as long as it makes sense and it's easy to explain what it is on the
What
table.
is it?
Um,
ITC, the really
yeah,
competitive
yeah.
bunch. They may have an issue with it, but I can't imagine I'll be messing in those
Well,
waters.
yeah,
I'll be
yeah,
down in the shallow end with the armbands on. It's fine.
yeah,
It's where the fun
yeah.
people are. Bottom tables are the fun tables anyway, so it's all good.
They are, they are. I'll have a decision to make when I get to 1,000 points anyway, or whether I
We'll see where we are.
go for the second 2K and what that involves, because it may well be some stuff that gets me there quite quickly anyway, because I'll need some some tanky type things, I imagine. Or it may well be that the rules by that point, I don't think we'll get there before the game's released. So the road to
Mm,
11th will be the road into and throughout 11th. There may well be that the rules allow me to officially run the Astra Militarum as allies anyway, and I just
true.
run them together, which I quite like the idea of. I
Yeah,
think
although
that would be quite
Wolf
fun.
Scouts would be cool.
Hmm.
Those
Well, I
models
want
are
the yeah,
lovely.
they're on my want to buy and paint models
Yeah,
list. So
and the Invicta
they will be
Warsuit
added. Hmm.
would be pretty good converted with those as well. Yeah, I mean, that what's the land speeder? The big upgunned one.
Hmm.
That might be quite cool.
Yeah, and there'll be new bits as well. As
Oh, well, there's allegedly the tornado, isn't there?
Yeah, so
The
that will be tempting if it's, and I'm assuming it will be available. So that will be something. And I like the idea of. I think we talked about it before. I like the idea of bikes because
yeah.
Space
I
Wars and
wish
bikes just seems to fit. It
yeah,
feels like
long range recon, that kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
there's some
yeah.
pretty cool mechanized space wolves in one of the books I've read, which we'll come to.
Mm,
Yeah, Space Wolves
that's
versus Red
interesting.
Corsairs is very apt, I will say.
Yeah, yeah.
Considering some of the other books I've read recently, but I think there's a lot of options that you could go with and would look pretty cool.
Oh, I've got a question for you then, and for anyone watching. So I finished my Dreadnought and did a snowy base.
Mm,
Um, shall I stick to the full theme snowy base look? But also, how often do they fight on planets with snow? Or should I
yeah.
go for? I'm tempted to go for something that works better in multiple different
Mm,
tabletops. So have almost like a dusty, rocky base, like I often do. Some city dust type powders, but also a little bit of red in there. But maybe little patch of snow or something. So it looks like a cold environment that has snow, but is also like frozen lands, but rather than wet, muddy snow. If that makes sense. It's very
mm.
hard to describe. Well, it sounds like I've described a million different things, but I know what I mean in my head. But I wonder if it's
Yeah,
better to have a little patch of snow to sort of say yes, it's Space Warsy, but then if they're on a table or allying an army that doesn't have that basing, they don't look quite so weird.
that's the problem. I mean, I love a snow base. Uh, I've had this discussion with Henry on more than one occasion. He hates a snow base. So,
Mm,
yeah, it's I quite like them. And obviously my chaos are on snow. A lot of my middler models are on snow.
Yeah,
Um,
I think they look awesome. I was just looking. I mean,
yeah.
the table setup I've got, that's a moon-based one. So actually, the snow looks fine on it because it's all greys and
Mm,
whites. But it was when I started thinking, I moved my Astra Minitarum to a different shelf in the cabinet when I started to do my 40K shelf, which is up there.
mm,
Um, and I realized, well, I'm going to be adding to these, and I've got a completely different basing set, which is fine. But then if
mm.
I'm building a set of terrain to use at home, which army do I
Yeah,
match it to? And if I do want to use them together, do I want something that kind of slightly ties them together rather than because one looks like they're in a sort of deserty bar, potentially Armageddon-esque. And I suppose you could say the wolves are on the bottom part of Armageddon where it's all icy and
uh,
snowy, but it doesn't work. We're on the same battlefield, so I'm a little bit torn with it. Um,
I
so
mean,
we will see.
like brownie reds with dust obviously looks cool. Would
Yeah,
work
which
for
is
them
what I
with the
tend to
blue
do.
grey.
Mhm. That's what I
Yeah,
tend to do.
I, I mean, given you've already spent enough time repainting the blooming dreadnought, how much time
I'm
is it
not
going to
worried
take to
about
rebase?
rebasing the one
Yeah.
miniature. And all I'm going to do is rip the texture off and start again. I'm not going to take him off his base either. It's not. If I'd done the whole army, if I'd done a unit, if I finished that unit and made them snow, that's it. That would be what they are. But it just got
Mm,
me thinking, do I try and do something that's slightly toned, stick to the snow, but tone it down a little bit and so they don't look quite so weird next to other armies, or just go zero snow and just pretend they're on wherever.
mm. I'd go
Because
dust
yeah, I'm tempted to. I'm tempted to.
but I also know how my brain works, and if I was using the guard and the Space Wars on the same, it wouldn't matter that the Space Wars didn't match the gaming map, but if my Space Wars didn't match my rest of my models, I'd be
Yeah,
upset.
yeah, yeah. And if I keep playing, I will buy I'm going to buy a new neoprene mat for
Mm,
40K. Um, because the card terrain's fine, but it's again the way
It's
my
hard to
weird
roll
brain
on.
works. It's got nice little layouts for the buildings to go
Yeah,
on, which is what I set it up, but that doesn't match the new um,
true. Yeah,
templates if I want to use those new templates, which I think will make the gameplay easier because you shift.
mm,
So there is something to bear in mind, and then Space Wolves have been on Armageddon recently as well. So it's I've been flicking through the Crusade book, and there's some lore in there around Armageddon, and it's all about Space Wolves. So yeah, give me some things to think about. I'm not going to decide until I go around to basing these ones, and I'll find a scheme for them, and then I'll go back and do it. But yeah, maybe making them fit my Astra Minotaur might be smarter. And the more I talk about it, the more I think that's what I
yeah,
might do.
yeah. I
Anyway,
mean,
that's enough. That's more than enough of rambling on about that. Let's move
mm,
on to the next bit. So let's talk about the inspiration for choosing your army, lore, novels,
mm.
artwork, etc. We'll start with you Dan.
Well, I've always liked the Red Corsairs. I've always thought they were an interesting faction. I've always preferred the idea of. I don't like Gribbly Chaos. I don't like too demony weemony and too sorcery warcery. Because I'm afraid when people paint everything pink and this, that, and the other, fair play to them, it's their models, but I do start rhyming my words and it all seems a little bit twee for me.
Yeah.
To each their own. I appreciate there is a side to the whole demon stuff that is quite dark, particularly, and I think it's very well done in the Heresy series when they talk about demons purely because
Mhm.
they do not understand what they are.
Yeah.
So they're even more horrifying. Whereas in 40k, okay, the populace aren't supposed to know, but almost everyone who's powerful enough to actually fight one pretty much does.
Right.
Or Space Marines just hit it in the face till it dies and, bolt upon, which is, again, is fine. Although I think, again, the way Dan Abnett writes them in some of the Inquisitor books and Anarch for the Gaunt's
Yeah.
Ghost series, that's well written. Demon hosts and things. Phew. That should have been Warhammer Horror, I'll tell you that much. Have you read that one?
No, no. But
That's
I've read
good.
a few. I paused on my Gaunt Scouts series, so I might have to go back to them soon, actually.
Yeah, Anarch's. He needs to write another one. I mean, I'm going to get Hive again. We're digressing. It doesn't matter, but
Yeah, me
we're
too.
talking
Me
about
too.
books, and this is the books more than pretty much anything else, as you've alluded to, drives my hobby. It's actually really bad for it. I will deliberately avoid if I'm between projects or I'm not feeling a project. I will avoid reading books or old books that I know may start firing those neurons in my
Yeah.
head. I can't read the Heresy books without falling. I mean, that Sons of Horus Army, which is sat there.
Yeah.
That's because I started rereading the series and
Yeah.
third edition and that. But yeah, the series did not help in that regard. But yeah, there's loads of different books that the Red Corsairs actually do pop up in. Obviously, there's the Bad War books because
Mm.
I really enjoy the history. I mean, the Bad War it was the Heresy before the Heresy was there in terms of the writing. It's when we started getting the armor marks. It's really when you started to see that train start to pick up steam.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, "Yeah, there's going to be Heresy now." Everyone started. I mean, there was that project, wasn't there? Everyone was co-opting it. Everyone was starting to paint
Yeah.
them in the colors from their collective visions. So that was a really cool time to be in the hobby for 40k. Like, super cool time. Um, and the books are beautiful. The story is actually quite compelling, quite cool because I mean, some of this stuff was around since Rogue Trader, like the Tiger Claws and that because originally there was the Tiger Claws, it wasn't Astral Claws, and it all. And then Alan Bly came in and added his secret sauce and made it amazing as he always did. So I've reread those when I've been sort of come around to this again. I mean, what first kicked it off was them announcing they were going to do it, and I was like, those models are awesome. I want them.
Yeah.
Um, And then yeah, I was getting into that, and I reread a bunch of the books where they already were in it. So obviously they're in Blood Reaver, the second of the Night Lords trilogy of books. Obviously not a huge amount, but it still gave you a flavour, and it really started to alliterate around who Huron Blackheart was and who the Red Corsairs were. Pirates, raiders. They weren't just standard chaos. Oh, we're so naughty. They were renegades.
Yeah.
They'd become disillusioned, not just because they were tricked by gods or anything. They just went, "This doesn't work for us. We don't want to worship chaos, but the Imperium is not it, and we want to do something else." And then oftentimes they were shunted into it because the Imperium said, "We're not having that." So some Inquisitor comes along and goes, "You're all very naughty. Excommunicate Traitoris, off you go." And they go, "Well, everyone's going to try and kill us now." So they end up almost embraced in the arms of chaos.
Yeah.
Which again, I mean, the story of Bad Abs is about tax.
Yes.
Literally, is he withheld the tithe because he couldn't afford to support the armies necessarily. He kept on having them withdrawn by the Council of Terror. Every time he was on the verge of clearing out the Maelstrom with the Black Templars or with other people, the Adeptus Terror and stuff just went, "That we're pulling them back. We need them elsewhere to prosecute whatever." And he'd always fall short. So he said, "All right, I'm keeping all my cash. I'm going to build up in secret." Made his chapter pretty much Legion size. Well, not. He's about 3.5 times the size of a chapter should be,
Yeah.
and that's what kicked off that war. And I really, it leads the character if you're on Blackheart and you see it through the books. So yeah, there's that, and then there was a really good short story, Harvest of Skulls, which is part of the Honsu from Iron Warriors trilogy and the Euroventress.
Yeah.
Again, Huron appears in that, and again, it talks to his character and it echoes a lot of what was done by Dembski Bowden in Blood Reaver. And then I've read more recent ones, which was Mike Brooks, the Huron Blackheart, Lord of the Maelstrom, which was pretty good. It was all right.
Yeah.
Again, speaks more to his character. I read Torrent of Hollow Worlds, which was really interesting. Huron against Space Wolves. Um, the books were a little bit weird. I'm not going to say it's the best book I've ever read, but it wasn't terrible, and it gave them more insight into, particularly about how his original Astral Claws veterans are dwindling, and
Yeah.
actually he finds that the those who followed him because they believed in him know him too well, and it makes him uncomfortable. So he likes being this new mercurial. He likes being Huron Blackheart, not Luft Huron. So the people who knew him as Luft Huron actually are he views him as a weakness. It's quite interesting.
Right. That's interesting.
And then I'm almost finished reading Guild of Rift. I mean,
Yeah.
they're the antagonists in that. But again, they're very clever. It's the way it's showing them. The forward planning, the piratical, the raiding nature and stuff. They're pretty cool. And it's got again Space Wolves in it, but naughty Space Wolves, renegade Space Wolves. And there's a bunch of other books and stuff that are in as well. Obviously the new layer of the Tyrant, etc. I managed to get a skim through that. I don't own that yet. I will get hold of it. And I'm just trying to have a quick look at what else I put on my list. I'm just going through in my head what I've got. What else was in there? Oh, Pandarax, they do appear in that. I read that a while ago, and I just did a little flick through and a recap of it. Again, they're antagonists, and they're kind of a minor one, but it speaks to the antagonism between Abaddon and Huron, because it's like Huron is a big deal, and he's got this huge, very big force, but Abaddon's just like, behave yourself. Either swear fealty to me, or just get in line, or I'll
Yeah.
squash you. And it's Abaddon is still the big bad, but he acknowledges clearly that Huron is a contender, which is interesting. Um, and then what else is on the list? I think that was it. I think I've covered it all. Um, yeah, those are the sort of the inspirations I've been taking, and there's a load of stuff online. There's some really, really good stuff online. A lot of it is just people reading out the background and that, but Arbitorian, he did some good
Yes.
stuff on Badab and
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about the Red Corsairs, and actually I ended up going down a bit of a rabbit hole, and his Tale of Four game as he did a couple of years ago. It was 10 episodes with his group, and they did Badab, and they built up from Kill Team through, not Spearhead, it's the other one, Combat Patrol, into
Yeah.
full 40k, which was cool when you're watching people build up their armies and stuff, and it kind of echoes a little bit what we're doing. So it's been quite inspiring to keep the hobby going. It's been keeping it front and center. It's the kind of thing I'm able to watch along or listen to when I'm at work, things like that. So keeps the hobby in mind, which is good for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I
How
can
about
can
you with
agree
your
more.
Space Wolves? What floated? You're going to talk about Bill King, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my love Bill
Oh,
King.
paperbacks.
So I recently bought these. So when I first read it, it was an omnibus. issue.
Yeah,
Um,
I had those ones first of all. Those were the ones I
so
used to
this is
have.
the second. These are not the first editions. These are
Yeah,
I think technically the second
the
edition
artwork's
ones.
different. I think
Yes,
there's a
yeah,
Way in
yeah.
England one on the front of the original Space Wolf.
I think so. These are the older artwork than you got
Mm,
on the omnibus edition I've
yeah,
got as well. So, so I've been I say rereading. I've been re-listening to those. First time I read it, I did actually read it as an omnibus. But I love William King stuff. Now, to be honest with you, out of those four that he did, the first one is amazing. Just generally, somewhat anyone who likes 40K or even fantasy uh, stories from that genre, that sort of that age of Games Workshop should give it a go because it's extremely well written
don't know if anyone can
and
actually see
different.
this. That was the
Yes,
original one.
yeah, that's cool.
That was the one
That's
I
very,
had.
very cool. So
Anyway, yeah, sorry.
really good stat. It's a really good standalone book by
Yeah,
itself. I thought the second one is fun because you fall in love with the character, but it's not a great
yeah.
book, if I'm honest with you.
No, it's not.
Um, and Grey Hunter's better.
Mm.
And then Wolfblade's really different. Again, it's a very different story.
Yeah, I wasn't
You
sure
know,
about that. And then the other ones, the Nathan Long ones, I went a bit silly because that's when the
so
Wolf and everything started
I've not
kicking in.
read the Nathan Long ones yet, so to speak. But Wolfblade, it's a different story of its here. It reads more like a Dan Abnett in some ways because
Yeah.
they are different Space Marines. They're not the Space Marines that are described in novels now. They're more human.
Mm.
They are clearly written at a time when they're not always perceived to be as physically large as they are now, and they're
Mm.
only a little bit bigger than humans, so that they square up against humans in bars and things. So it's definitely almost drifting away from canon that doesn't work anymore in some ways. But as someone who loves old Hammer and books from sort of those kind of eras, I really enjoy them. So I've worked my way through those, and they're the biggest inspiration and why I love Ragnar Blackmane. But I've told this story in the first episode we did, but when I came back into gaming, the first thing I did before I kind of went over to Warhammer Fantasy and stayed there, is I did dabble with 40K, and the first games day I ever went to, I never went as a kid, but was I think around the time of the Space Wolves, the Phil Kelly version, which is 2009
Mm.
era. I think that was about 2009, and that would have been fifth edition, I think, wouldn't it? I think it was fifth
Yeah,
edition
sounds
then.
about right. Yeah.
I collected an
That's
army
when you
then,
first got
built them.
Thunderwolves, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
fifth.
and there were new plastics as well then as well. There were
Hmm.
new, and they were great. I remember picking up a box of each of the new plastics, not the Thunderwolves. I never bought those. Never liked them. Still don't like them now. It's weird. They're weird. I remember buying the book there and the two of the box sets. And they were on pre-release then. That was back in the days when you could buy stuff a couple of weeks early before it was in the shops.
Mm.
They don't do that stuff anymore. So that sort of sticks as a core nostalgic memory now. To think that now that is now such a long time ago is wild, but I'm just getting old. And then I have been going back and looking at some of the older lore and enjoying the new lore, to be honest with you. Like I've already mentioned that the Crusade campaign rules book is Armageddon based because I was researching Armageddon and I realized there was a connection there. So reading that book and reading the lore there is interesting to see that there's Space Wolves involved. So, but he's for me is
Well,
Bill King. It's just
uh,
the real thing.
Logan covers himself in glory at Armageddon
Hmm.
because he's the one who stops the Grey Knights just killing all the defenders of Armageddon
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
because
So
they are after seeing Angron.
yeah, yes. So
You want to see
basically,
Angron?
the Space Wars have got a nice, accidental but nice connections with
Mm.
Armageddon, which I love. And yeah, I've already mentioned the Gar, but I'm more excited about the Yarrick release and the Armageddon release, as in Return of Yarrick Armageddon, than I am the actual 11th Ed
Yeah.
Starter. It's purely because I have my Space Wolves. I'm choosing all the units that are Space Wolf only units rather than
Mm.
standard Codex Marines as it stands. And when I go up to 2,000 points, I'll obviously dip into more of those units, but they're the ones that really, but where my heart is.
Mm.
And I love Astra Minotaur. So the stuff that's in starter box. It looks cool, but am I as excited about it as all the new Yarrick and the stuff? No, no, not at all. And the same with the Space Wolves. I'm far more excited about continuing to paint this project than I am about that new starter set. As it stands, I'll just buy the book. And there's
Same.
games which will give me a set. Who knows? It's I don't cover 40k on the channel as far as
Mm.
they're concerned, but I do occasionally get sent things that from game systems I don't normally cover as well. So we'll see what happens close to the time. I might get lucky, but as it stands, I'll be buying the rule book rather than buying the whole start because I don't need it as such. Um, so yeah, it's there's not loads of detail there. It's very much me delving back into nostalgia and remembering reading Bill King. It's just him and Dan Abnett are my favorite two
Mm.
authors. They are different types of writers, but they both do stories, humanized stories very well. Um, both, I think, tap into something that works well for that kind of fiction, which is the what I like to call like the Bernard Cornwell effect.
Mm.
And you get so if it's you have a cast of characters that you become really passionate about and you want to read about them, but a lot of the journeys and things they do are quite repetitive, but it doesn't matter because
Yeah.
that's what you enjoy them doing. Dan Abnett does that a little bit with Gaunt's Ghost. There's got elements of sharp there.
Oh, it
Um,
is sharp. It really is. It's just yeah.
I think Bill King does it in a different way, not quite such a big cast of characters, but his writing is, it's mass market writing, but it's good mass market writing, not pulpy. I've lost
Yeah.
track of what this paragraph's about because you've just over described a fight scene, a battle scene. Bill King's books are not full of that. There's so much character thought. You spend
Yeah.
a lot of time in your character's head, and I think that helps make the stories have a slightly a kind of narrative I enjoy in the stories. And so
I
if you like that kind of stuff, I think, and you haven't read Bill King's Space Wolf stuff, go and read them. But yeah, there's some it's definitely not very modern day canon friendly now for sure.
no.
So
Yeah.
if you enjoy that, I think you'll enjoy Space Wolf at least.
Yeah.
But even though the later stories probably fit into that a little bit more, Space Wolf's a really
But
good standout. I
the trials, the way it describes that, which obviously were always interesting in the canon, particularly the way the Space Wolves put their, because I'd say they're one of the only Space Marine chapters slash legions who have ever really their aspirant trials actually
described in
written
detail
about
as
in
well.
such detail as
Mm,
that.
yeah,
The Blood Angels a tiny bit when
yeah,
they talk about like the crossing of Baal and the like spectator games and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it seems the only Space Wolves when they talk about half the journey is just getting to the Fang. It
yeah,
seems to be yeah one of the more fleshed out ones, I'd say.
absolutely. And then the final thing is I haven't. I there was a sale on an Audible, like really good sale, books for £2.50. And so I snapped up quite a few because it was just made loads of sense. So I've got a Chris Freitas Hellwinter Gate, Wolf's Honor, which is another. They were sort of follow-ons. The Sons of
Hmm.
Fenris as well. Um, what
Did you get
else is
Battle
in
for the
there?
Fang?
Let me have a look. I'm trying to look in my library and it's not looking. So, yeah, Sons of Fenris, Wolf's Honor, Hellwinter Gate, Stormcaller, Blood of Azerheim. I
Hmm.
picked up all of those for £2.50 or around that. I think the most expensive one was about £3. So I've got lots of other Space Wolf related fiction. I have no idea how good any of it is. Chris Frake's usually good for a story. So
Yeah, Scars is great.
so there's three there. So we've got Blood of Alzheim, Stormcaller, and Hellwinter Gate are more modern Space Wolf fiction. So I'm looking forward to those just from that perspective of how they're written in more modern Black Library rather than proper old school um, Black Library. So yeah, I'm looking forward to those. They will be the accompanying lots of my 40k painting. Obviously, so will some Astra Militarum stuff. I imagine delving back into some Quartz Ghosts as well. I think, but I don't want to go on about that too much. I think that's enough for
Yes, it
our
is.
show today. Keeping it under an hour, and we do have to. say who the winners are. Dan has no idea who the winners are.
Nope, not a clue.
But so
It's not me,
hopefully
is it?
you're watching. No, it's not. You've not won an Ultramarines calendar. You'll be pleased to know. So I'm really sorry to the winners of the calendars. Only joking, Ultramarines fans. So we have Walter Lute, who was one of my patrons actually, and Rory Fenn 8876. Now I don't know if you are one of my patrons. If you are, you have a different username for patron, that's for sure. But yeah, get in touch. Probably not via the comment on this video, though. Please comment away, but click on the description and find the email button, or message me via Instagram or something like that. It would be an easier way of doing it. And unless you're a patron, obviously there's through the Discord, etc. as well. But get in touch, give me your addresses, and I will get those calendars sent out to you ASAP. But anyway, Dan, have you got anything you'd like to say before we let the good people
As
go?
always, the level of engagement with these is really cool. So thank you everyone for the comments and yeah, if you're enjoying what we're doing, please keep coming back. Please, if you're getting involved, share your Instagram handles in the comments. Let us go and look at what you're doing if you're joining in.
Mm.
It'd be cool to see what everyone else is up to.
Yeah, 100%. Come and join the Discord. There's links, loads of links in the video description. The Discord is free to join, and it's a really friendly place to come and chat painting and stuff. It's there's no misbehavior in there at all. I do not tolerate it. So it's a lovely, friendly, safe space on the internet to come and share your hobby, no matter what standard you are, etc. So if you can behave yourself, you're very, very welcome in the Miniature Realms Discord, and lots of other games are covered in there as well. Check out my Patreon if you want to help me, support me, and all that. The links for the video description of that as well. Channel has a sponsor called Counterattack Bases, and they make lots of different counters and game aids and stuff like that. Loads for 40k, do custom dice and things as well. But thank you very much for watching. Take care, and we'll catch you soon.